special guests today that are coming to talk about Voices for Children, a nonprofit foundation. Vince, raise your hand. And Nelson, raise your hand. We've never done this before. I've never done this before with two guests. So we're going to have rules of engagement. I'll ask a question and whoever feels comfortable answering it, you guys are more than welcome to. I want to read a short bio for each individual here. Vince is the president and CEO of Acumen Insurance Advisors, the firm that specializes in insuring clients for personal and commercial property and casualty. Additional risk coverages include employee benefits, PEO coverage. Acumen Financial Division works with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, preliminarily focusing on life insurance and estate planning. Working in such a dramatic and fast-paced industry has allowed him to grow into a leader in the Miami-Dade County. The interesting thing about my guest, Vince, is the last two paragraphs of his bio is Vincent also takes part in various community organizations. He is the chairman of the board of directors for Voices of Children. He is also the chairman of the board of directors for the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation Board. These organizations support and aid abused, abandoned, neglected children in Miami-Dade County. Vince is also the board of directors of FACE, Facts About Cuban Exiles. The focus is to advance the image of Cuban Americans in the U.S. Vince is a big believer in giving back to the community that gives so much. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for coming. Vince, you arrived here in Miami in 1980. We'll get to that in a Mariel boat lift. Now we'll talk about Nelson for a second. Like I said, I've never done this with two people before. Nelson Hincapie. Did I say that correct?
Well, my dad would say Hincapie, but I've been called a lot worse.
Okay, I just figured I'd destroy your last name. Joined Voices for Children Foundation, Inc. as president and CEO in May of 2009, bringing with him significant experience in political arena, fund development, transformational leadership, and commitment to public service. He began his career in government on the staff of Miami-Dade County Mayor Alex Pinellas, who will actually be on my program in a couple weeks, March 3rd, I believe, as part of a team that led to a successful statewide campaign for universal pre-K and ensuing constitutional amendment guarantees a high-quality pre-kindergarten education for every four-year-old child in Florida. We'll get into your background in a little while, too, but I want to welcome both of you guys here. I'm very happy that you took time to come out today and talk about Voices for Children. I really enjoy, other than my political guests, what I really enjoy is doing nonprofit and charity and introducing people to the community out there. So tell us about Voices of Children. It's a vague question.
Yeah. So Voices, which Nelson's our president and CEO, basically helps abused and abandoned children in Dade County, neglected children. So the things that, unfortunately, the things that happen to these young kids, I'm a father of 4, mom's in jail, dad's not around. What happens to that kid? Who's the voice of that child in the guardian and in the system of the courts? That's where Voices really comes in and make sure that child has an opportunity to a good life and placed in the right home, right foster with a family member, and then provide the needs that that child needs to move forward, even through 18. And then we have an aging out program. So imagine when you turn 18, they tell you, hey, David, good luck, son. I wish you the best. Tough at 18. So we have a program, an aging out program to get them out to age 23, get them through high school, get them to college, get them a job, get them to be part of society, and break the cycle of what they've gone through. So it means a lot to me. Like I said, I have 4 great children that have it all. And these are the kids that are less fortunate. So that's what we give all our money to, and we give everything to these kids.
You guys both have 4 children, right?
Yes.
You guys are better men than I am. I only got 3. At 3, I said I got to cut it out. So tell me the difference between Voices for Children and Guardian Ad Litem, because they're kind of like the title kind of interplays with each other.
Yeah, I guess Nelson, you're better at that.
Sure. So the Guardian Ad Litem program is the law that says that anytime a child comes into the foster care system, they should be represented by somebody in court. You know, the child's taken from the home because they're not safe in the home. They come into a legal system. There are attorneys for the state. There are attorneys for the parents. There are attorneys everywhere. There are case managers, case workers, and there's a judge who needs to make determinations on behalf of that child. So The Guardian Ad Litem program is a program that says that when that happens, the children should have somebody that represents their best interest in court. So an objective voice that gives their opinion to the judge as to what should happen in the case. So there are volunteers. We have about 700 volunteers here in Miami-Dade County. And what Voices does is we raise money to help offset the cost of recruiting, training, retaining the volunteers. And we provide for the needs of the kids, the social needs, educational needs. So we do school uniforms. So we are the fundraising organization for the Guardian Ad Litem program, if you will. And the Guardian Ad Litem program is a statewide program. So we use private funds to leverage other dollars so that the Guardian Ad Litem program is fully funded, and so that ultimately, children in the system, are able to break the cycle of abuse and neglect. You'll go to dependency court, and judges will tell you that these children come from an intergenerational cycle, meaning that judges will take children, and then when those children grow up, they'll take those children's children, and then when they grow up, they will take those children. So you have 3 generations. You have judges that have taken 3 generations of families into the foster care system, which is really the tragedy of this country, I think.
So it says on the fact sheet that the program's been around for 37 years. Is that a national program, or is that strictly a South Florida program, or is it a statewide program? Because you said that the Guardian Ad Litem is statewide operation. So the background for Voices of Children is it just Dade County, or is it everywhere?
So our Voices is Dade County only. We take care of kids. I mean, it's the largest city in the state of Florida. It's the one that has the most cases, the most kids in dependency court. So we just focus on Dade County. That in itself, we raise about $5 million a year. Part of our program, we have almost 70 employees that help these kids, from lawyers to council workers to social workers. So just Dade County is a monumental program to just even manage. So even though it's a statewide program, we just focus on Dade County. And I believe, I'm not wrong, Dade County has more cases than the entire state of Florida combined. So it's a big program, and it's a big problem in Miami-Dade County.
So tell me the mechanics. Okay, because there's I'm sure right now, especially with COVID-19,
yes,
that there are a lot of kids that you read about it all the time. They're abused. They're thrown into a system that doesn't work, because I don't think anybody would say that the state of Florida system for kids is working or has ever worked. Yeah. Even though they've tried to, and this is just from me reading all the time, try to work on a system and get it better. Flowing better and working better. You always read about kids that are abused, but they already were. The state's already been notified, and somebody was supposed to go out and check on it, and they never went. They never checked on it. Tell me how the mechanics works about how you guys get involved to make sure that that shortfall does not fall through. That doesn't fall through the cracks.
So typically, when the case comes in, the judge will appoint the guardian program to the case. And then the guardian, will put a volunteer guardian for many other cases. And there are some cases which will be taken by a staff guardian, if you will. So it's somebody that works for the program that takes more than one case. And usually these are the more severe cases where tragic cases where...
Does it? I'm sorry to interrupt, because I'm going to interrupt.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm trying to. I may try to dumb this down for me, and if the audience isn't aware of it, to try to get try to get it so it's simpler for them. Do the children have to be in front of the judge already to get the Guardian Ad Litem or Voices for Children help, or can it just be that somebody a teacher reports that it looks like a kid is abused, and you guys go out there? You guys wait for the judge?
Yes. So the first thing that happens is when a teacher, that case that you give, the teacher, the little kid shows up with a lot of bruises, unexplained bruises. The teacher calls the abuse hotline. the abuse hotline sends the child protective investigators to the school, and they determine that indeed that child is not safe at the home. That child is pulled from the home and goes in front of a judge. At that time, the judge appoints a guardian ad litem. Now, there are the guardians ad litem in dependency court are volunteers. They're not paid by the state, and they're volunteers. So,
And what's the difference between the family court?
so family court is
Yeah.
divorce cases. For
Okay.
instance, there's a contentious divorce, and the judge will appoint a
So it's a
guard-
non-criminal act.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
and all they do is provide objective direction and their input and their observations, and it's a neutral party to the case that simply is looking out for the best interest of the child. And that's what happens both in family court and dependency court. It's a guardian will always look out for the best interest of the child.
And that's why it's so important to have voices, because a lot of the tragic stuff we read about, they never get the voices. They never get in front of a judge. That's, I think, the
That's
point you're
what I'm
alluding
trying to pull out.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the problem right there, because I'm sure these caseworkers probably have too many. I mean, you work for the government. Sometimes you're overwhelmed, right?
Right.
So you have too many children that you're supposed to visit and you can't visit, or something happens and they get lost, and these kids get lost through the system. So you got to get other people involved, right, in the process. But you can't get involved until a judge tells you can get involved, which to me seems to be waiting for something to happen instead of being proactive.
Correct. And unfortunately, that's what happens. We read it on the papers, and went front page of the paper, this child was left in the car and overheated and died at 7 years old. That had been happening with mom and dad. Nobody had reported or got into that situation where they pulled the kid. Now it's in front of a judge, and then Voices gets involved and we act. When we get involved, we act. Our success rate, our turnaround rate is absolutely amazing. It's that we don't get to those kids, unfortunately. And that's where the system has to break before we get involved.
So if there was a way to get to those kids, you can't really get to them without the judge telling you, right?
Correct.
And does the judge constantly tell you can get involved, or does the judge say every once in a while, no, I don't think you need to get involved in that situation now? What are the percentages of a judge actually letting you get involved with a situation like?
Yeah, I think most of the time before it gets to the judge,
Yeah.
that's when the tragedies happen and the
Yes.
abuse happens. It's when the abuses happen multiple times and that child then ends in front of, that's when we get involved. But
Yeah, I'm
it's
trying
late.
to figure out
What percentage
you
of
guys
that?
now what percentage of that, and if there's a way to circumvent tragedy happening by you guys getting involved sooner rather than later.
We don't.
Yeah.
Right now, we are on the back end,
Mhm.
but I know that there's a push for the system itself. And listen, at the end of the day, I've been in child welfare now for 12 years, and I used to think that there were bad people in the child welfare system that really wanted to hurt kids. And you know what? Most of the people who work in the child welfare system are phenomenal, good-working, hardworking people who just want children to have better opportunities. And sure, are there bad people in the dependent? Yes. Are there bad people everywhere? Yeah, absolutely. But most of the people that work for the Department of Children and Families, most of the people that work for Citrus, most of the people that work for any agency that deals with children who come into the foster care system are outstanding, phenomenal.
Oh no, I just think they're overworked.
Yes,
Underpaid and underpaid.
And underpaid.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like everything else. It's the least amount of money goes to the situation where it's probably needed the most.
Absolutely.
So
sorry.
No, it's okay.
So when the judge appoints a guardian, yes, it's too late, but the department is making an effort to do prevention services. The other part of this is, sometimes we read a lot of the stories in the paper and oh my God, this is such a horrible mom. She deserves the electric chair. But when you talk to, and I've talked to a lot of the parents, and the parents do not want to be, I've yet to meet a parent who says, I want to be the crack whore of the year. I want my kids removed by the system. I want the state to take care of my kids. I want to put my kids through hell. That doesn't happen. It's the intergenerational cycle, and it's wounds that these people have not healed that makes them lose their ability to ration. And I mean, listen, I have 4 kids, and sometimes I want to throw him against the wall.
But we don't want you to think to throw them against the wall.
No. But
You're talking to somebody who never hit their kids, and is probably a mistake actually.
So listen, but sometimes, and you don't, because one, you're rational. One, you have the tools, and you probably have a lot of support services. You're talking about people who may not have had the
education,
wherewithal.
money.
Yeah.
So you got the support for the children, right? How about the support for the parents? Where does that come into play at all? Is there any nonprofit charity group trying to send them to Miami-Dade College, giving them parenting classes or anything to try to help them so you can bring back the kid or the child? Sorry, I don't mean to say kid.
Yeah.
I would get slapped by my 5th grade teacher if I said kid. Bring the parent in, and you can bring the child back once they have some sort of training.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't handle that portion of it. We're so focused on the kids. There's so much demand to make sure that kid is in the right place, right home, have what he needs, social services, get him back to school, good grades, break the cycle like Nelson's talking about. That it's almost like the parent who takes care of the parent, right? And a lot of these things are low-income families, low-income folks, drugs, alcohol, lack of education. That, unfortunately, that lower income is suffers, and it's hard to help those folks, unfortunately. Yeah. And COVID has been horrible for child abuse. Parents are home with these kids. They don't have the resources. They don't have the space in their home. Online schooling, it's been very difficult, these parents. And the other part is these kids don't go to school, so the teachers don't see the abuse.
Yeah.
So the abuse is rampant happening, and the teachers, which are typically the outlet that notifies us that there's an issue, to get involved. So it's a tough time to be,
So there's been, I would assume there's been an uptick in the last year.
Absolutely. And we haven't even seen it all of it yet.
And the problem is that the court systems have probably slowed down too.
It's all Zoom.
So it's all Zoom. So once the judge says, okay, I need a guardian. Okay, I need a third party to step in here and make sure that the child isn't abused anymore. You either pull them from the house or you don't pull them from the house. How does that work exactly?
All the above. I mean, we find what's the best scenario situation for this child to be in. Is it a grandma? Is it an aunt? Is it an uncle? What resources do they need? So we do help families potentially with some rents and stuff like that to make sure that the environment's good for that child. And eventually we want to reunify them with their parents, but a lot of times that doesn't happen, unfortunately. And that's a good thing for the child to move on in a better direction.
Well, do they go to a foster home?
Yep, foster homes for the most part. Yeah, and sometimes family members. We try to place them if we can with family members for the most part. There's an aunt, there's an uncle, there's a grandmother, grandfather. What do they need to support this child? And we help them. And that's where our fundraising efforts come in, where our dollars come in to help those families. So we don't directly help the parent. We help the folks that take on those children for us to do better and break the cycle.
So the guardian, how often do they speak to the children, or do they speak to the aunts, the uncles, or the foster? I mean, what's the interplay?
By law, they have to visit the children once a month. But I know a lot of volunteer guardians that see their the children once a week.
Right.
But again, by law, it's once a month, and they have to write a report, and they send it to the if the volunteers can't show up at court. But now, because of Zoom, I think a lot of it's easier for a lot of volunteers to do court. But it's once a month that they have to lay eyes on the children.
And how often do the social workers go to check on the kids?
If they have, they say, for instance, that they have medical appointments. So the social workers typically take the children to the medical appointments. So they'll see the children as many times as they have to. But to your point, a lot of them are overworked. So many have many cases. So it's difficult for them. It varies, I think, depending. I know some social workers that see some of their kids. Depend if there's been a crisis or something like that, they see them 5 times a week. Depending on where they are and depending on what's going on in their lives, it's like, and I think ultimately the way we're going to make progress with children in the child welfare system is when we start measuring the outcomes for them as we measure the outcomes for our own children. Yep. We should not, the baseline should not be that they are safe or that they have food. The baseline should be, how well they're doing in school, how well adjusted they are, And this is something that I know that a lot of the people involved in the system are moving towards. I know I sit on the board of the Children's Trust. I was Mayor Jimenez's appointee, and hopefully, I'll be Mayor Levine Cava's appointee to that board. And one of the things that I've made sure is to bring up the whole children in the welfare system, which typically the Children's Trust didn't really fund a lot of that because they said they're the responsibility of the state. But ultimately, right now there are 1,500 children in the child welfare system who are the responsibility of us, of you and me, and of Miami-Dade County. And we can't finger point and say, no, you know what? I'm not putting a dime into that child because the state needs to put the money. So we need to be able to work together and come up with solutions, real solutions. We can't babysit them till they're 18 and then say goodbye, good luck, you're on your own. But the goal of every child welfare agency should be to turn out phenomenal children after we've become involved in their lives.
What kind of psychological counseling do these kids get after they're pulled out of the house? Do they get any kind of psychological counseling? And where did they get it from? And is it paid by the county? Is it paid by the state? I mean, how does that happen? Because to me, if I was 7 or 8 or 9 years old and I was beaten every day, and then you said, well, we're going to pull you out of there and we want you to get good grades, and then we want you to go to college, and then we want you to get a job, you still have the after effect of being psychologically, for lack of a better word, damaged, I guess. Would be, I don't know if that's PC or not. You get a break. You're talking about breaking cycles. Well, the only way to really break the cycle is to have them literally talk to somebody who's a trained psychologist to try to get them over the trauma that's occurred.
David, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's let's go back to that child who's beat up every day, and who we have traditionally said education is the key. So if we educate that kid, do you think that kid is going to learn 5 + 5 or 5 × 5 or 25 divided by 5? No, because he's got trauma that he needs to be dealt with before there's any education that can help. Listen, for any of us, and I know what I'm talking about because I've been to therapy. I have a story of my own. And oh,
by the way, I love therapy. I've been to therapy too. Not right now, but I've been to therapy. I love therapy.
So listen, the key to therapy, and I've seen my share of therapy. The key to therapy is that the therapist needs to earn the trust of the, especially when you're dealing with kids, especially teenagers, or that 7 or 8 or 9-year-old child is not going to be able to address the issues unless it's a very highly qualified therapist. And listen, this is the child welfare system has been around for a long time. And so there has to be more outcomes related to that. How do we get that child who is being beat up at the home? And how do we get that? And that child will always want to go back home. Regardless, that child will, when they turn 18, they want to go home. And so why is it?
It's like the same reason that battered women sometimes stay with their spouse or their boyfriends. I mean, that's just, it's that same type, there's some sort of, they call it something. I don't remember exactly what the technical term is, but I just like what you're talking about. I don't see how you can expect them to be successful. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of these kids are very, very bright, okay? But they can't meet what we expect them to do with that trauma that has occurred when they're kids. So it seems to me that they would need some sort of counseling to break that, right? And on top of that, you would want to give them counseling so they didn't, when they got married and had kids, they didn't continue. Yep. They didn't continue the process.
Yeah, they actually broke the cycle.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking for. I can tell you that when we get these kids and we get them with the right guardians, the guardians become their mentors and folks that really help them transform their lives. And children are relentless and resilient in the sense that little love sometimes turns them around. the amount of success stories we've had in our 37-year history, I mean, hundreds and thousands of kids that you see them break the cycle, find a loving guardian or a home, finish high school, go to college, get married, have kids of their own. It's unbelievable. Once we control, we become the voice of that child.
And what percentage do you think that is?
It's a large
it's a large percentage.
Absolutely, versus not coming to
Oh,
voices.
no. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing that there's even in today's day and age, there's even one child that, is being abused and it hasn't been addressed by somebody notices. You can't tell me a teacher, a neighbor, somebody must notice, and they're not reporting it to the police.
Yeah, I think it's happening more and more, the reporting. And it goes back to voices. Thank God we exist in this system and in Miami-Dade County to help these kids. But like the goal is, we got to get it to them. We got to get the judge to get us involved, and voices become the child's voice in the guardian program, and then we turn their lives around through therapy, through love, through whatever these kids need. The problem is when we don't get these kids. That's the hard part.
So what are you missing, if anything at all, besides monetary contributions, to helping the process continue and grow, where you really don't have, one child left behind? I hate to use that kind of like terminology because it stands for something else, but what are you missing in the cycle?
Unfortunately, it's always dollars, right? We raise close to $5 million every year. We're actually, Nelson and I and a couple board members are meeting with the new mayor, Cava. We feel Dade County could do more. And not so much Tallahassee or the state. I think it's a county situation for us with voices. So ultimately, dollars is what gives us the ability to add programs, add resources, add the therapy you're alluding to. And that comes through our private donations, grants, state, local, federal dollars. So we're hoping to have a very good meeting with our new future mayor. Which is a big supporter of voices, has been in the past. And hopefully she will be a big supporter going forward. So ultimately, it's dollars, unfortunately.
I mean, to me, it's amazing. I would assume that that if anybody, we all care about kids. So the biggest fundraisers are probably for animals and kids, right? Yeah. You think charities, and you would think that the county would come up with some sort of plan, to make sure that you guys are fully funded. How much money from the state, and do you get it nationally, or do you get it statewide or countywide? How does that work?
Well, I can tell you from the county, the first part is we need to get a lot more money from the county. Some commissioners do give us money. So when you really add up what the county would give us, I think it was like $60,000 last year in our fiscal year, and maybe another $60,000 from commissioners. You think we get $120,000 from Dade County?
No, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. If you think about it, we're at $6 billion budget. I mean, it's a rounding error. You say, hey, give them $1 million. Yeah. That $1 million to us means a lot to put in programs, social programs for these kids to help them in the system. So that's going to be our big ask with our new mayor, which is a big advocate of voices. So hopefully that goes well for us. As far as percentages,
you hear that, Mayor Cava?
Yeah,
you hear that?
We're looking forward to seeing you, meeting you soon.
Yeah,
actually, we're doing a Zoom. We're not meeting. We're doing Zoom. Yeah. We know her well, but it's a Zoom. Yeah. We have an agenda, and I think it's going to be very successful. And I think exactly what we needed, what you just mentioned. We need those dollars. We need the support. We need the county to step up and say, we're taking care of our own kids in Miami-Dade County. And that's happening. That's going to happen, God willing.
How much is it? Well, you're not going to, I don't think you can be able to answer this, but maybe you will. How much is it to take a child that you actually have through the program and cost to get them through the cycle and able to take care of themselves, or put them back in the house? Does that
it's a big number. I mean,
does that question make any sense?
It does make sense.
It makes total sense, but it's so individual, and every case is different, and it depends a lot of times with the parents. Do the parents complete the case plan? Are those kids able to return to that home? It depends on the age of the child. So if a child is under 5, the chances for the parents to recover if you will, it should be less, because all the research shows that that's the most critical age. So it really depends on the age of the child. Right now, for instance, we have a grant that we just got from the Perez Family Foundation for a permanency specialist, which is a position within our program that oversees children under 5 and making sure that every child who's under 5 has an expedited process to reach an adoption or a safe permanent home as quickly as possible. So that is hopefully eliminating children from becoming, from aging out of foster care. So I don't think if children age out of foster care, I think we have failed as a system. Children should be in homes with people that love them, with people that understand them, that are compassionate, caring, and loving. That's where children belong. Children don't belong inside a system, because a system or a
system
government,
that's a system, by the way, that's broken, or could be, or from
it can
past
always be better.
experiences,
Yes.
it could always be better. Okay, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
But the system has not worked properly. If you look, I read the Herald and other stuff, but the system has not worked to the full extent possible. For a long period of time. It can always be better, and unfortunately, because of that, it's the kids that are suffering.
Absolutely.
So the system, but are the parents actually open to Voices for Children and guardian ad litem?
So many times the guardians will explain, many
Mhm.
times the parents will understand that the guardian is there for the best interest of the child. I have seen guardians tell parents, listen, you need to go to the AA meetings. I will not recommend visits if you don't show up at the AA meetings. I will not recommend you visit the children if you don't get a sponsor. So the guardian is the glue, and the sole purpose of a guardian ad litem in a case is to make sure that child best interest is always met. And like I said at the beginning, the children always want to be home. It's just human nature.
Oh,
we
yeah,
want to
you
be
wanna
with
live-
our parents.
I want to be with mommy and daddy.
yeah,
Correct.
no matter
And
how
they
many.
probably don't understand why they're being taken away, because they can't mentally comprehend that they shouldn't be beaten, right? Because they haven't experienced living with anybody where they're not hurt. Okay, so I mean, you are what you know, right? So I get it, but that's why I said earlier, there should be another way to get these parents some sort of help they need, because at the same time you're helping the child, but you're not really you're dealing with you're treating the symptom. But you're not dealing with the virus, or I don't mean to call parents virus, but you understand what I'm talking about. Or the disease. And the disease is the fact that the parents don't really comprehend any better.
Right.
And that's the importance of the guardian. The guardian is really the glue that keeps it all together, like Nelson just mentioned. A good guardian with a parent that maybe just needs some tweaking, needs some help, some support, resource. Maybe she needs a job or he needs a job. So whatever it is that guardian can do to help that parent, those parents, that's ultimately going to benefit the child. So that's why we're always looking for guardians that are volunteers. We're increasing our payroll really with guardians that we hire, so that these kids have the right guardians. That's the glue for that child in that future.
So how do you ensure that you have the right guardian for that child? How do you make sure that they connect?
Yeah, so the volunteers really care about picking up 1, 2, 3, or 4 cases, and they're really concerned about the child's well-being. So they're gonna care. The volunteers, and then the ones that we employ also really care. So ideally, we want more volunteers. The more volunteers we have as guardians, and a lot of times folks have a lot of time, resources, money. They can, whether it's a wife or a husband that becomes a guardian. That's the key to these kids' success, is the guardian. We really feel.
Aren't the majority of your guardians, they're non-paid, they're volunteers?
Correct. Yeah.
So we have a mix. We have about 600 volunteer guardians.
Volunteer, correct.
Now, most of those don't take more than 4 cases. I think you have some exceptional guardians that take 2, 3 cases, and then you have the other, the staff guardians, if you will, which are the ones that take cases of, for instance, a sibling group that has 8 children in it, and then some of the children are living in homesteads, some are living somewhere else in another foster home, because no foster home can take 8 children at a time. So you don't want a volunteer driving all over the county seeing those cases, or some of the other more violent cases is what the
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I always thought, I'm always thinking about one child, but you brought up a very important point that it may not be one child. It could be 5 or 3 or 2 or whatever, and they're all going into court, and you got to figure out if the guardian would take all 5 or 4, or you'd have different guardian at litem, and where are you going to place these kids? Are you going to place them all together? And the mechanics of that have to be extremely difficult
and complicated.
Right.
So our staff guardians really handle the more complicated child abuse, sex abuse. The atrocities you read about or hear about. And then our guardians that are volunteer handle the one-off case where they have 1 or 2 kids, or 2 kids on each side. And that's what we need more. We need more of the volunteer guardians to help us in the program. You can't hire enough of these folks. And unfortunately, we can't pay them a lot of money. The staff guardians, we're not paying them money. You say, wow, I want to do this for a living. So the volunteer guardians are really important. We're always trying to advocate to find more and more guardians. And that's so important for our system, what we're doing with Voices.
Yeah, it sounds like you need a lot more volunteers and a lot more money.
Sounds like a simple solution.
You hear
right?
that? You hear that, Mayor Cava?
More guardians, more money will help the system.
So do you find it? I mean, this is going to be a slam dunk question. Is this? Do you find this more of an economic type issue with the kids? I mean, is it basically because some of these people just don't have the financial means to support themselves?
Yeah, definitely. It's the low income, the less fortunate. That lack jobs, lack education, unfortunately, selling drugs, prostitutions, and all of a sudden they have kids, and those are the kids that are most vulnerable. I think as we get higher in the income bracket, you're going to see less and less of that because there's some more support, there's more education, there's more dollars, and we don't see as much as that as the lower income folks. Unfortunately, someone that's on Medicaid, food stamp, those folks, it seems like they're just struggling day to day, and unfortunately, these kids become victims of adult issues. And unfortunately, these folks, they take it on these kids, which is unfortunate. So definitely it's a lower income situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when the kids get out, some of the kids that have graduated or turned 18 or 19, have they turned around to help you guys? I mean, you have a group of people that have come back and said, look, you guys really helped me out. I really appreciate it. I mean, I was in a terrible situation. Can I do anything for Voices for Children?
Great point, great question. Yes, I mean, Nelson has helped thousands of kids, and these are the folks that speak at our luncheon, at our gala. Prior to COVID, we had a beautiful gala at the Man Riviera. We attended 500 people. We raised $700,000 on that gala. We have a luncheon, we have an event, we have bowling, and they come back as adults when they're married with kids, and then they speak at our events. And when you hear someone that says, Voices saved my life, the guardian ad litem saved my life, my guardian is here. Here's who I am. I went to high school. I graduated from college. I'm not going to law school. You'd be shocked to see how we change these lives. And those are great stories and testimonials that help us, one, raise money and awareness to say, look what we're doing when we do break the cycle. So we have thousands of those stories, thousands and thousands of those stories. So we know it's worked for 37 years. We just need to continue working. And we need more dollars and more guardians, which sounds like a simple solution. But that's what we're fighting hard for every day. Every month, not because he's here, but he is a phenomenal leader. He's in the trenches and he works his tail off to make it happen.
Well, he's been working since 2009, right? That's 11, 12 years. That's very admirable.
And I was a lucky first board member he brought on the board as a regular board member 12 years ago. and then obviously went through the process, and now I've been chair for a year and a half and got another year and a half left. And it's been very challenging to raise money during COVID.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about raising money during COVID. So there are people out there who may want to volunteer or may want to contribute money. How would they get in touch with you guys? Is there a website available where you can volunteer? Is there I guess you have to go through a class.
That's
30 hours, I think.
Yep.
I read 30-hour class to be able to volunteer. Why don't you explain, the different things? Well, let's talk about money first.
Yep. So COVID's been very difficult. We had to cancel our gala in January. We had to cancel our luncheon in October. Our bowling, some of the events that we do, not only fundraising, but friend raising, where we get people involved in the organization to become guardians and volunteers. We've lost a little bit of that. Nelson's done a phenomenal job, including the board of directors themselves writing checks, going to their friends and family. We've had several private foundations that have donated six-figure checks to us, $200,000, $300,000 checks. Nelson's gone to Children's Trust, say, hey, we haven't had events, we've lost all this revenue, and the Children's Trust has stepped up to the tune of $285,000 based on the fact that he's really aggressive.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years coming. So I think that's helped us, kind of find
bridge the gap.
Bridge the gap. Absolutely, we got to continue to do more of that. So we're hoping to be doing events again soon. And to your point, so yeah, we've done a phenomenal job. The board has done a really good job in making sure the funds came in without tapping into our endowment. We're one of the few not-for-profit organizations that does have an endowment that's done well. It's been in the market, so it's done. Obviously, the market's done well. We've done well with that. We haven't even had to tap into that, which tells you that we're really aggressively fundraising. How to get more involved? We have a website, great website, which is voices.
Beavoice.org. www.beavoice.org.
There's literally a button that says donate. You can click on the button, donate on a credit card, anything from $10 to $1 million if you'd like to donate. We'll take it. And that's how we go. People are going, we're redirecting folks to the website to basically click and donate money to us. And fortunately, we have enough of a following of folks, board members that really care, that get their tentacles out to people to make them aware of what we need for voices of these children. So we're blessed in that sense that we've done well. We know many organizations, not-for-profit, are not doing very well right now. So we're blessed in that situation.
And your gala is, because I've been to a couple of your galas, your gala is what, in March?
It's always in January on President's Day.
Okay.
And so we just missed it. Last year we had a phenomenal gala, which we raised probably about almost $700,000, and then this year, unfortunately, got canceled. That's a big hole that we leave.
A huge hole. What? How much did you used to raise in a gala? Because was it? I mean, after expenses and everything, what was the hole? If you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer.
Yeah, I think with the net, I mean, you probably know
the net of at a gala last year, 585, right around there. Our cost is really very low. Compared to a lot of great galas, for many reasons. We do everything in house, and so we keep our costs very low. So yeah, we raised, we grossed 600 and something thousand, and we netted 500. Yeah,
very big net profit. We have a good partnership with the Mandarin Hotel. The general manager of the Mandarin is on our board, Mr. Robert Lowe. So they really bend over backwards for us for this gala, and our costs are very low. So our net raise is very big. But take that away in January, that's a big hole.
That's terrible.
It's a huge hole for us. So that's why we're, anybody's out there that can help us, go on our website and donate. Every dollar counts. And we're really looking forward to our mayor meeting next week. Very excited about that, to hopefully fill that gap and that hole.
Have you met with any of the other commissioners?
He's the pro when it comes to the politics.
You've been knocking on the doors?
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled with Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, and so I'm making the rounds with the new set of commissioners and Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, and obviously, Senator Garcia has been a great supporter. He's always been at the events, and so we're going to reach out to him and Commissioner Gilbert and Commissioner Oliver Gilbert, Cohen-Higgins. Yeah, Sosa knows, but the new ones there's one I'm missing. Cohen-Higgins, Gilbert, Garcia. I'm missing one.
We'll have to call Mike Miller in here. He knows all by their first name. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up unless there's something that I haven't asked you, and I'm sure there is, that you want to explain or tell anybody about Voices for Children.
Nothing. But just donate. We need your dollars. We need your support. We don't see us having a gala or events maybe for the next 12 months. So it's going to be a tough, challenging next 12 months. So whatever.
Have you ever thought about having like a gala during the summer, or
like a virtual outside?
Yeah.
We're
it's hard to do that. I mean, I can understand.
Yeah, now we're hoping once the vaccine gets in place, things are better. Hopefully, end of the year we'll start doing stuff. If things go well.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to having, and I think a lot of people just want to do something maybe outdoors or something. We're thinking about doing, hopefully, an event outdoors or something, just to have people be able to support and show their support. And I mean, when I think you hit the nail on the head, David, is how do we transform these families, and how do we prevent the abuse from happening? And I think that's where we as a county should get to. And I think Mayor Cava really understands. Her background gives her an ability to understand these social issues like very few people really understand it, and really go and address the issue at the root. and which is how do we keep and get and have healthy families. So I think it's a partnership between the county.
It's not just, I mean, the kids first priority, but it's not just the children. It's the home environment that you have to change. And if you can change that, you can change the cycle for, years and years and years. And that's what it has to be a more than a one prong approach. You guys are doing your prong probably perfectly. You still have to get in there and work on some of the other prongs.
Absolutely. I think we got one board spot left. Maybe we can.
You'd have to ask Jeffrey. Okay.
We got room on our board
if Jeffrey says okay, or Yolanda, if they say okay, I'm all for it.
We're gonna make a phone call so we can leave here. We can call him right now if we want.
No, I really appreciate you guys being here. I would love to have you guys back on. I'd love to have you back on as far as some of your background, because it's very interesting. And I don't want to speak for a community newspaper because I'm not an employee. But I'm sure when you do have your gala, that I'm sure Michael and Grant Miller would be happy to put some advertisement out for you guys.
We'd love to do that. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
So, and anything I can do, just let me know.
Thank you.
That means a lot to us. And I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. It was perfect. Tommy? Thank you, Sal. I think we're ready to go. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you next Thursday.